Black Power, Black Power. Welcome to the People's New Black Panther Party Black Nationalist Network radio show with your host and engineer, Brother National Lieutenant Everest Prom, with our sister national, Queen Shamita, introducing Brother Umar Johnson. Both of your lines is open. Queen Shamita.
Peace and love, family.
Peace and love, brother.
Peace and love. Tonight's show is a very special show, and it's regarding the education of our children. The title of the show is The Miseducation of the Negro, taken from the title of the same name of the book by Carter G. Woodson. This brother here, Dr. Umar Johnson, I have mad respect for him because of his dealings in dealing with the educational system and educating our children. I've learned a lot over the years from listening to this brother's lectures and design, and he's in the trenches, he's in the field, and he's doing the work, family. Tonight's show, I want this brother to come on and discuss the ramifications and the hardships that he's had to go through to get the school open. He was recently in Detroit last week, I believe. Last week he was in Detroit, and he was discussing the opening of the school. So with that being due, I'm going to introduce our special guest for tonight, Brother Dr. Umar Johnson.
Thank
Black
you, Queen.
Power.
Thanks for Black Power. Thanks for having me on the show. And I want to give a special thank you to all the brothers and sisters, not only in Detroit, but throughout the great state of Michigan, who have always supported my work over the years. Thank you to everyone who came out to the event this past December the 30th. And jam-packed, that was always a pleasure. So Detroit is a very special place for me, and it's a city that has a lot to do with the success of Dr. Umar Johnson. And I'll be coming back next week, Thursday and Friday, the 19th and 20th. I finally got access, thanks to my good brother, Malik Shabazz. He was able to get me access into the public school system. So I'll be able to finally, for the first time after all these years, get a chance to take a look at some of the abandoned buildings in Detroit and see if one of them will work for the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy. You still
Yes,
there,
sir.
Queen?
Yeah, we still. Yes, sir. I just want to introduce our Southern Regional Chief of Staff as well, Brother Jonathan.
How you doing, Dr. Umar Johnson?
Peace and love, brother.
Yes, sir. I want to appreciate you for being my mentor as well. When I first met you in Little Rock at Little Rock 9 and everything, and we had a talk and everything about my foundation, about how I could start a black school for high school students and then get it to where they can come to your school. So I want to know, like, when you're looking for the schools, what are you particularly looking for?
There is no particular. What I'm looking for is a school that would basically give me an opportunity to have some expansion once the school is acquired, which is to say that if the school had a couple of acres of land around it, that would allow us to construct an additional building when we need to do so, because once I open the school, it's going to grow quickly. And one of the challenges that any principal has, when you're talking to a former school principal, by the way, but any problem that we as principals have is when your school expands so quickly and you don't have room to accommodate all the children. The worst part of your job is telling parents that you don't have a seat for their children and that you have to send them back to the miseducation machine. So I'm just looking for a school to give me opportunity for a little bit of growth. We don't have as much money to demand a lot of growth, but if we can have a little bit of growth, that would be good. A gym, an auditorium, a lunchroom, those are three things that you always like to have. Are they absolutely imperative? No, but they are very important. I saw a school in Atlanta last week that did not have a gymnasium, but it did have a lot of outdoor space, So although there's no gym, because there is a lot of outdoor space for the children, that can compensate for the lack of a gym a little bit. But there's no hard requirements. It just needs to be a school. I got to look at the condition of it to determine whether or not we can afford to rehab it. But it's nothing. There's nothing mysterious about what I'm trying to do. I guess one of the biggest issues with my school project is most of the people who have something to say about it are not educators. They're not psychologists. They've never been principals. They don't know anything about what I'm doing. They're just conscious folk. But of course, in the social networking age, anybody who got access to the internet can automatically make themselves an expert in an area that they know nothing about. So a lot of the comments, a lot of the things that people have expressed are born out of ignorance. They're not me. You know, I'm unique within the conscious community because I'm one of the only scholars who got a legitimate doctorate degree, not one that somebody gave me at the Black History program, but one that I earned. So coming from my vantage point of expertise, a lot of other people don't have it. And so naturally, you know, they ask, you know, stupid, ignorant questions like, why not start smaller? Well, I'm not interested in starting smaller. I think our children are entitled to a regular school. I mean, we spend $600 million on McDonald's every year. We spend $2 billion on Air Jordans every year. Why do our children have to settle for a makeshift school? Why do they have to settle for a home school when they belong to a community that grosses $1 trillion every year? For me to want to start with a regular school, which is not elaborate, basic school structure, for people to say that that's starting too big when you're spending $9 billion on weave and perm every year, but it's too big for our children to simply be blessed with a school building, not a makeshift school, not a storefront, not a church basement, but to just start with a school. For that to be considered to be starting too high tells me the type of priority that we actually have for our children's lives.
Okay, because see, the reason why I asked that is because, you know, some school districts pass the millage, and when they pass the millage, sometimes they leave the abandoned school or the school there that is really nothing wrong with it, so they can raise taxes for landowners just to build a new school, and the school is just sitting there. So what is the best way you think that people can help you as far as making sure that this really happen if they have a school in their area that's not being utilized?
Well, basically, all they have to do is send me the information. But one thing I do want to say, though, is we're looking for schools that people feel are, number one, not going to require extensive rehabilitation. And again, number two, offer some growth potential. I mean, as an educator, I know of schools that are available all over the place. But to find something, you know, that isn't going to require a lot of rehab, that is in an area that is either inside or adjacent to the Black community. There was a school I saw in Pennsylvania about 2 weeks ago, and I really liked it, but it was in a predominantly white neighborhood, and I didn't necessarily feel that was very safe for our children. So I like it to be in the Black community, or at least adjacent to the Black community, not need a whole bunch of repairs. That's what I'm looking for. But I've been asking people to send me information on schools for a while now, and some people have. Some people have been sending me information. Most people just talk, you know. But as I said, I'll be looking at the schools in Detroit next week, and there's other schools I'm going to be looking at, Chester, PA, North Carolina, South Carolina. So it's a work in progress. What I'm not going to do is rush. I'm not interested in trying to appease anybody. Most of the people who have something to say about the project are either jealous because they tried to raise money and haven't had the success that I've had, you know, or they can't wait to criticize my next step. You know, so this isn't about them. This is about the children. So I know what I'm doing. I know how to do it. I am an educator, more than credentialed, more than experienced in this field. It's not new to me. So a lot of the stuff that I hear, I just basically ignore and keep on pushing. But I think it also has to be said, one of the reasons why I don't respond to a lot of the negativity surrounding the project is because for every hater, there's a million people who support me and my work. So it's not even worth responding to, because when you compare the haters to those who actually support this mission, you know, the haters are like one person to 1 million. So in the larger scheme of things, it's irrelevant. I'm an international personality. I'm not just local like most people. So, you know, there's people who donate and support from all over the world. I was talking to a brother yesterday in East Africa. His father is an architectural designer, so I'm going to be speaking with him next week about looking at the possibility of putting a school in Africa. So everything's on the table right now. Everything is an option, and as we continue to investigate and study, you know, we just continue to raise the funds and ask people that they continue with it. GoFundMe.com/Dr. Umar. And also they can donate through the mail, payable to FDMG Academy, P.O. Box 6872, Philadelphia, 19132. So we've committed to the first day of school being August the 21st of 2018. That's when we want to open up the doors for the first time for our young men. in whatever grades I ultimately determine we're going to start with, which will be based on the amount of space and size that the school has that we choose. So we're moving forward. It's not a question of if, it's only a question of where and a question of when. There's no ifs in this process. There's not a question of if we're going to build the school. We already have a date. So the rest of it is just building.
Yes, sir. How can a organization that has a 501c3 and that's a charity or educational organization, how could they help you get to the point where you're trying to go?
It would depend on what they do, what they offer. I mean, in terms of what we're doing at this stage of the game, there's really not much that can be done except to continue to amass the wealth that we have to acquire the school, bring attention to the school, and help us in terms of finding out schools that are out there that are available. Because I've been doing a whole bunch of traveling. I've just been traveling all over the place, looking at different schools, and I just haven't found one yet that I think would be perfect for what we need. But the one that I saw in Atlanta, the one that I saw in Baltimore, and the one that I saw just outside Philadelphia, those were the closest I saw to being what we need. But the one in Atlanta is affordable, whereas the one in Baltimore and PA, they're a little bit out of our range right now. But again, you know, the donations come in every day. People can look at GoFundMe and see the type of support we get. I also get them by mail as well. And so we're just going to keep on pushing. As we look, the money is being raised, and we do need more money. We definitely do. $600,000 to $700,000, you know, that's not a lot when you're trying to actually acquire a building. I mean, being a Garveyite, you know, we believe in nation building. So for us, it's all about institutions. Right. So, you know, again, I'm not interested in a homeschool. We have enough of those. If somebody wants a homeschool, they can start one, which is another point that I think needs to be put out there. If someone doesn't support what I'm doing, I respect their right to not support it. That's their right. Go do something positive. If I don't support somebody, I'm not going to be wasting all my time following them around, criticizing their every move. If you don't support me, just move on. I don't have a problem with that. I have more support than I could ask for. So I'm totally content with the type of love that I get from the global, not just American, but the global African community. So if you don't support Dr. Umar Johnson, just keep it stepping. Find something that you can support. But, you know, looking to tear somebody down because you can't be in their place, that's not acceptable.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, most definitely. Well, Dr. Umar, Dr. Johnson, go ahead, sister.
Well, I was just going to ask if you could expound on how did we even get here? How did we get prior to segregation as educating our own children? We were educating our own children with our own universities, our own schooling. And the way that this education system is set up in America as it is right now is not beneficial. And I just want him to expound on how did we even get here to where the children are pegged as ADHD, ADD, oppositional, you know, and things of that nature. As far as, you know, feeding the children pills and, you know, doing all those other things. For me, I never even heard of ADHD or any of those other things until my own son went to school. And he was about 5 years old, and the teacher approached me and was like that he needed to be tested because he needed to be tested for ADHD, and they wanted to automatically put him on this Ritalin. He wanted to be put on Ritalin. And I had to research it and find out what Ritalin was, what was ADHD, and what was the ramifications, what would it do to my son later on down the line. But after I did my research, I kind of told the lady, no, he's just a young man, and he needs to get out and get fresh air and, you know, structure, because I believe that all children need structure. I don't believe any kid is ADHD or ADD. It's all about being structured. So how do we get the word out about that, Doctor?
And Doctor, before you do, please, can you use my favorite term? Would you say what ADD stands for?
ADHD, ain't no daddy at home disorder.
Yes, yes.
Daddy from the house disorder. And we say that because most black boys diagnosed with it don't have a dad. It's really about the absence of the father whose job is to teach the boys discipline. When that father isn't there to teach the boys discipline. The mother isn't necessarily going to do a good job of that because, number one, she's raising multiple children alone. 75% of our children are raised in single-parent, female-headed households. On top of that, the mother has her own medical issues, her own psychological issues. Single black mothers have enough to worry about. Last thing on their list that they need to be concerned about is provide discipline to their sons. It takes a man to raise a boy, and our boys don't have men in the house. ADHD is a direct result of the United States government's war against black men that takes them from the homes and creates the type of situations that we have today. One of the reasons we have these crime rates, these gang rates, these black-on-black homicide rates is because the men are not there to provide the structure. Whenever you snatch the father from the home, you're going to get chaos. That's the way when that father is not there, this is what you get. Our children are going crazy. They are literally going crazy because that structure that is normally the prerogative of the father is not there. As far as the queen, the point you made, the reason we were successful before is because of segregation. However, the irony of segregation is that you were forced to work together. Segregation forced black people to operate as a community. You didn't do it because you wanted to. You did it because you had to. And as soon as school desegregation came in 1954, and as soon as social desegregation took place with the Civil Rights Bill in 1964, black people did what? They abandoned their independent institutions. They abandoned their schools. They abandoned their communities for a life with white people. I mean, one of the reasons we haven't come forward, and people are always asking the question, why haven't we come forward? What's wrong? It's real simple. Black people are still looking for acceptance, approval, and validation from white folks. Why was Barack Obama so successful amongst black people, even though he did absolutely nothing for black people? Because he was accepted by white people. Barack Obama symbolized what is at the heart of every black person's inferiority. Finally, have your slave master condone, validate, and accept you. And when you look across America politically and economically, if you notice, all other non-white groups are busy doing what? Building and solidifying a political economic base. Chinese, Arabs, East Indians, Latinos, no matter who you look at, they're busy trying to solidify a political economic power base. They're trying to construct a new reality for their community. Everyone is doing that except black people. And we're the ones who should be doing it more than everyone else because we suffer more systematic racism and social ostracism than anyone else. But we're not interested. Anything that has to do with black people working alone, anything that has to do with us being accountable to each other, anything that has to do with us regenerating ourselves from within is not popular. Black people want to be white people. And because they cannot be white people, the closest they can come to being accepted by white people is their goal. Why is it that we gross $1 trillion economy and we know that our children are going to schools where they're not wanted, undereducated, miseducated, special educated, juvenile, incarcerated, psychiatrically medicated, effeminized, homosexualized, the list goes on. Why are they still there? There's only one explanation. You can spend $9 billion on perm, $4 billion on alcohol, $2 billion on Air Jordan, $600 million on Nike, $3 billion on Christmas, and your children are going to schools where you know they're being miseducated. There's only one reason to explain this. We don't give a damn. And that's the point that we really have to get to. Black people do not care. They don't care. They care about themselves. They may care about their families, but they're not interested in the collective benefit of black folk. And that's why we have to find those who do care, because there are some. I would argue that we are in the minority, conscious community included. Conscious community included. Okay, one of the biggest revelations that has manifested to me by being within the conscious community, and you guys know I speak and travel more than all the rest of them put together, and I'm able to see the reality, and that is even amongst the conscious so-called lecturers, okay, most of them ain't got no plans either. They not building nothing either. It's just about ego gratification, making a couple dollars, social validation, a little bit of fame. But when you look at 9 out of every 10 isn't doing anything of significance to improve the life of black folks. And it's ironic because in the conscious community, we criticize the church. The church is the nemesis in the conscious community. We blame the church for why we can't get more people out. We blame the church for why we ain't going forward. But when you look at the conscious community, it is structured and operates just like a church. No programs, no systems, no institutions, all rhetoric. Black consciousness, just like the black church, is a new religion.
Yes, I can totally agree.
Drop the balls on.
I'm so ready for you to come here to Detroit to just witness with your own two eyes the dilapidation of our school system, the mismanagement of funding, just the very fact that the miseducation of our children. Here in Detroit, we don't even have the basic necessities to even educate our children in this present school system that we have here in Detroit. They don't have books. Half of the school buildings are dilapidated, unsafe, not enough heat, not enough lights, not enough gas. You know, myself, my daughter goes to a private school, and even there, I thought it would be a better education for her. But it's still the same thing there. You have to purchase copy paper, pens, basic necessities. And one of my biggest fights whenever the discussion comes up about your school in particular, Dr. Johnson, is you're trying to fleece the community, or you're trying to sneak something out of the community or something like that. And they don't understand the process and the amount of money that it takes to even open up a school, just to even have those basic necessities. If you could speak about that for a little bit. And also I wanted you to discuss the different ways that we need to learn as black people, the system that we're currently under is not for us, and that's because we learn different. If I'm saying it right, I don't know if I'm really explaining my question right, but I just believe that we learn differently than what the system is designed to teach us, how they're teaching us, and that's why I think that we have so much of a failure within our school system, not only because of the parents not being fully educated properly, but the environment itself that the children can go in. So I want you to kind of expound on that, and just the amount of time and money that it takes to open up a school. It's not like you can say, I want to open up a school, and the next year it's done. You know, people think that this is a fast type of thing that you're trying to do, the magnitude of what you're doing. So if you can expound on that for me.
Well, institutions cost money, period. And of course a school, being a commercial enterprise, is going to be more expensive than any other type. A school is going to cost more than a home. A school is going to cost more than most traditional structures that we're familiar with because it's a commercial property. So the monies that we're raising, and most people fail to realize this, it's purely for the school fund to acquire the real estate. And the reason we want to acquire the building outright is because we will be able to keep tuition down significantly if we can purchase the school. Tuition, the reason why it's so high is because of the real estate. It's the real estate. It's the mortgage that drives the tuition up. So if we can purchase the school outright where we own the school, then that's going to be that's going to work wonders for our parents in terms of keeping the tuition down, because what I don't want is a situation where it's so high that the only parents who can afford to send their children to FDMG are those who are middle to upper class. I'm not interested in a talented 10th institution. I'm interested in an institution where black boys and girls, regardless of their parents' socioeconomic status, can benefit. So that's number one. But, most people are keenly aware that it takes money to acquire property. It's not something you do overnight. It's a process. And those who complain are aware of it as well. We just got to understand that, we are addicted to self-hate. We love to see black people fail. We do not want to see success. There's no greater generation, I would say, that is endemic of the crabs in a barrel situation that Booker T. Washington described than the blacks of today. I think this generation that we live in now, this 21st century black psyche is the most self-hating psyche I think that we've ever produced. When you look on social network, the stuff that you see, the constant negativity that's being spurred and pushed, the assaults, the attacks, and not just about me, just generally speaking, it's all negative. Like, very few people use social networks for anything positive. Very few people use social network for anything positive. Black people, I'm speaking. When you in our age generation, it's all negative. I mean, I saw something yesterday that was discussing someone in the conscious community, not myself, which I thought was absolutely deplorable. Like, you don't say something like that about somebody. You don't put nothing up there like that about somebody. But that's where we are. We're at a state where all we want to see is black failure and black conflict. We love it. It's our religion. Black hate is a religion. We pledge ourselves to it. So I don't pay much attention because it hasn't really stopped anything that I'm doing, to be honest with you. Of course, my haters, they try to legally disrupt the things that I'm trying to do. But beyond that, I don't, it really doesn't bother me because, again, the success is so great compared to the hatred. Now, one thing that needs to be understood about school desegregation is the reason white folk were so interested in desegregating the black schools wasn't because they wanted to give our children an opportunity to learn with white kids. The reason they wanted to desegregate the school is because they were afraid of the type of genius that was being developed and nurtured in the dilapidated one-room black schoolhouses. A lot of people fail to realize this, but we invented the gas mask and the stoplight and the three-way light, and we developed the textbook on how to illuminate an entire city using electricity. And before black kids could go to school with white kids. So white people were growing very, very fearful of what black children and black people were able to develop and invent without being under their supervision. So the desegregation of black public schools was more of a takeover than anything else. It was more of a way to directly select black children that the white power structure could use to their own benefit, i.e. Barack Obama, Condoleezza Rice, Colin Powell. The purpose of public school is to select those black people who can be used to further maintain and push white supremacy. So that's why they needed to desegregate. We need the best black minds so we can use them for ourselves. And even when you study a lot of our scientists, the government employed and contracted with a lot of black scientists to help them build the Industrial Revolution, to help them build the war machine, to help them improve in the automobile industry. When you look at the Industrial Revolution, you will see that it would have never been what it became without the black scientist and the black inventor. So the school desegregation movement, more than anything else, was a colonization intelligence.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that was a very, very. I never heard of it in that aspect. Nope, never heard.
Dr. Johnson, could you touch on the IEP team as a criminal operation?
Yes, the IEP team is the team of special education. When a child is evaluated, and I'll be evaluating some children here in Philadelphia tomorrow. After I evaluate those children tomorrow, if I determine that that child has a learning disability, or if I determine that they're autistic or emotionally disturbed or intellectually disabled, and I qualify them for special education as the certified school psychologist, my report then goes to the IEP team. The IEP team, by law, consists of the child's parent, the principal of the school, the regular ed teacher that teaches the child, and the special ed teacher that will teach the child. Those are the four mandated members: the parent, the principal, the regular teacher, and the special ed teacher, and anyone else that the parent or school feel is necessary to be a part of that team to do what? The IEP team has three responsibilities. Okay, they must develop the program, they must decide on the placement, and they must monitor the progress. Develop the program. If your child is determined to have a reading disability, which your listeners need to know, cannot be objectively verified. You cannot prove a reading disability. It is a professional opinion. Nonetheless, if your child is determined to have a reading disability or math disability, or they are autistic or emotionally disturbed, whatever the problem is, and by the way, the emotional disturbance was created almost exclusively to marginalize black boys, by the way. And your listeners need to know that the emotional disturbance is nothing more than the angry black boy syndrome that white folks created. Right. And I talk about this in my book, Psychoacademic Holocaust. But once that child is qualified for special ed, the IEP team has to come up with their learning program. If there's a reading disability, they have to create the reading curriculum. If there's a math disability, they have to create the math curriculum. If the child is emotionally disturbed, they have to create the emotional support curriculum. So by program, we mean curriculum that is specific to the disabled area. Curriculum that is specific to the disabled area. So that means your kid will still get regular ed math, regular ed science, regular ed language, regular ed social studies, but because he has a reading disability, his reading curriculum will not be what the other kids are getting. He will no longer get the regular curriculum. He will get a special curriculum. That's why it's called special education, because you're going to get a special curriculum to pinpoint your deficiencies in the area of reading. So they create the program. What is your child going to learn while they are away from regular ed in the special class with the special teacher with other special students? What is he going to be working on during reading? That's the program. And then placement. Where is he going to receive his special education help? Is he going to get his help in the regular class? Because special ed is a program. It's not a place. So a child can stay in the regular classroom and still get his special support in that regular class. What happens is the special ed teacher comes into the regular class and they work with the disabled kid in the regular class. So that's a placement, the regular class. Most of the time when we hear special ed for black kids, we think of a special class. We think of a separate class because that's what it is in Detroit, Philadelphia, Brooklyn, Durham, North Carolina, where I'll be on Tuesday. It is a special class. They put black boys in special ed so they can do what? Get them out of their classroom. And so they put them in that special classroom full-time or part-time, and most of the time with black boys, it's full-time. They're totally segregated from regular kids, okay? And then the last responsibility of the IEP team is progress. They have to make sure that special ed is benefiting the children who receive it. Your son is in special ed. He has a reading IEP. He receives his reading support in the special class or the regular class. On top of that, the IEP team has to make sure your child is benefiting from his reading IEP. Now, let me tell you what I see, because every special kid has to be re-evaluated every couple years to make sure they still need the service. So in Pennsylvania, kids are reevaluated every 3 years, every 3. So let's say your kid goes in special ed second grade. Dr. Umar Johnson is going to reevaluate him in the 5th grade, 3 years later. So if your son is not retarded and he went into special ed in second grade, reading on the kindergarten level, which I probably would have disagreed with anyway, because why is a second grader being put in special ed in the first place? But anyhow, he's in second grade, reading on a kindergarten level. So he's 2 grades behind. I'm going to see him in 5th grade for the reevaluation 3 years later. Well, guess what? I see your son in 5th grade 3 years later, and now he's reading on the second grade level. I have a problem. Why do I have a problem? Because your son been in special ed for 3 years, and he only moved up 2 grades. And now as a 5th grader, he's on the second grade level. So 3 years of special ed, and now you're 3 years behind. He started special ed 2 years behind. He's been in special ed 3 years. Guess what? He's 3 years behind. And this is what your listeners need to understand. Your child is likely to lose more ground. Let me say it again. Your child is likely to lose more ground in special ed. The gap gets wider. So he was in second grade reading on kindergarten. Now he's in 5th grade reading on the second. When he gets to the 7th grade, he'll probably be reading on the 3rd. When he gets to the 9th grade, he might be reading on the 5th. When he gets to 12th grade, he might be reading on the 7th. So a kid who started out 2 grades behind receiving special ed in the second grade is now 5 grades behind as a 12th grade student. Special ed is the school to prison pipeline.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So
And by
very true.
you stating when you stated what you stated about the children that's supposed to go be in special ed and they're supposed to be able to really be on point, basically, but they're still behind. Can you tell us why the non-existent, why LRE is non-existent?
Yes, sir. Least restrictive environment, which relates to the fact that a kid should only be, which is a legal clause that demands or dictates that a child should only be in special education to the extent necessary in order to learn. A child should only be in special education to the extent necessary in order to learn. But we know that's not the case in Detroit. We know I'm willing, if I go into any Detroit public school, and I've never been into one. I've been in one of you guys' charter schools my first visit to Detroit, a charter school that I heard no longer is operable. But nonetheless, if I go into them schools, I'm willing to bet you that I would bet for Detroit, I would probably assume, and we could probably find this out statistically to be the truth, but I would assume that 75% of black kids in special ed are in part-time or full-time, even when they don't need it. I'm willing to bet. The LRE is violated every day in America because, number one, the whole reason the white teacher wanted your son in special ed in the first place is to do what? Get rid of him. She wanted him out of the class. And if you want to get rid of a kid, you can't expel them unless they did something egregious enough to, justify expulsion. So if I can't expel them from school, how do I get them out of my class? Special ed. He probably has a parent who doesn't understand academic racism, who's very easy to get over on. I'm just going to be honest. Black parents are very easy to get over on, and it's one of the reasons why I started the National Independent Black Parent Association, and we'll be having our third regional conference in San Diego, California, at the end of this month, Friday and Saturday, the 27th and 28th, and I invite anyone in Michigan, anyone across the country who wants to come out, across the world for that matter. If you want to get the training to start a chapter of NIBPA, please come on out to San Diego at the Black-owned World Beat Cultural Center, Friday and Saturday, January 26th and 27th and 28th, 9 in the morning to 6 p.m., because we got to educate our parents. The good thing about education is you can empower parents to do it themselves. You don't need a lawyer. All parents need is the law. They don't need a lawyer. They need to know the law, and they can go in there and advocate for their kids. But let's be honest. A lot of poor black mothers, they're so depressed. They're so, they're so beat down that most of them don't even have the energy to fight back against these crackers in these school systems. And that's why we have to have parent advocates, which is one of the committees. We've got to have parent advocates to go with them into the school who can help them fight to protect their kids, because these schools don't care nothing about our children. The most hurtful thing for me when I look at FDMG and the fact that we don't have it yet, or not even my school, just the fact that we don't have enough schools for our kids, it hurts me because we can afford to do this ourselves. And if you look at what happens to black kids on a daily basis, it would make you cry. The reason I called my book Psychoacademic Holocaust, because it's a Holocaust going on in those schools, brothers and sisters. It's a Holocaust. Mm-hmm. They are snatching the lives away from black children, literally, figuratively, and metaphorically. They're killing our babies. They're killing them psychologically. They're killing them emotionally, and they're killing them intellectually. They're killing them psychologically. They're killing them emotionally, and they're killing them intellectually. We have to bust our kids out of those schools. We need an underground railroad that goes from the public school front door to the front door of the independent African school. And for me, I get emails, I get letters, little black boys and girls send me letters. I get them on a regular, but letters in the mail from kids. Will you please hurry up and open up your school because I don't know how long I can hang on. I mean, coming from a third grade, sometimes I got to sit down and cry, y'all. I'll be honest with you. I got to sit down and cry. Even the mothers who send me messages, Dr. Umar, I can't take it no more. They keep on messing with my kids. When is your school coming? Wherever you're going to open your school, I'm moving there. And it hurts because I wish I could do it today. Nobody hurts more than me that I can't open up the school tomorrow because I'm dealing on the front lines with our parents every day.
Mm-hmm. I did have a question about that. So what you're saying is basically once a child is labeled special education, their chances are slim to none that they will ever have that label removed from them.
Oh, yes.
Am I correct?
Yes. You're absolutely correct. because special education is a financial welfare program for the school system. Remember, every time I put a kid in special ed, the school gets paid. The school gets paid. Tomorrow, I'm going to start evaluating 3 children. When I'm done evaluating those children, if they qualify for special ed, their school will get a certain amount of money transferred into their account by the end of the month. This is about money. Special ed is a racket. Special ed is a hustle. Make no mistake about it. If special ed didn't come with money, schools would not go through the trouble of special educating kids. It's about the money. They don't care about the kids. It's about the money. They are making billions of dollars off of miseducating black kids. It is a crime. Special education is a crime against humanity. Public education is a hate crime. Special education is a crime against humanity, and public education is a hate crime.
Dr. Johnson, I want to take it back a little bit. Can you tell the listeners and everything how and when it changed, and how, when, and why this diagnosis changed from ADD to ADHD?
1980 to 1987. In 1980, the American Psychiatric Association invented ADD, and I say invented because that's what they did. They made it up, attention deficit disorder, and then in 1987, they remixed it into ADHD. All of this was during the 80s. All of this was during the CIA crack cocaine war against black fathers. All of this was, during the defatherization of the black home, if you would, war against black fathers that basically left single black mothers to raise boys by themselves. That's what this is about. It's about a war against fatherhood. That's what ADHD is, an outgrowth of the war against fatherhood. In other words, give all those boys their fathers back, nearly every one of them would no longer qualify for ADHD if they had a father in the house. They're using medication to deal with a sociological issue, and that's a damn shame. You're going to medicate kids who don't have nothing wrong with them, that the only way that they're being disadvantaged is because you took their father from them. And instead of giving their fathers to them, you rather give them drugs. That is a damn shame.
Yeah, because I work in the medical field and the healthcare field, and the amount of the sisters that come in there with these young black boys, and they're coming in and they automatically, he needs to be on Ritalin, he needs to be on Concerta, he needs to be on this, he needs to be evaluated. I call it lazy parenting. That's what I basically call it. You're being a lazy parent because you don't want to take the time out to spend time with your child. You don't want to take the time out to give your kid structure. You'd rather see them doped up and quiet, sitting, staring off into space, rather than dealing with the issues at hand, or taking the time to deal with it, or even trying to even find help or resources to solve the problem. Again, for me, I think a lot of times the children they need structure. They don't have structure. They see too much. They don't have what you call it. You come in. They don't have a routine. You come in. You automatically help out with the homework. When that should be an automatic thing. First thing they do.
Which takes me to another point. Not to cut you off, but which takes me to another point, and that is the issue of wanting a residential academy. I'm a product of a residential high school. I'm a product of that. So I know the benefit that can come from boys growing up with other boys who are going through the same developmental challenges that they have. There's a benefit to that. And another reason why I wanted ultimately FDMG to be a residential academy, we might can't start that way, but we hope to evolve into that, is because most of our children do not come home to families. They come home to houses. The mother's not there. She's working 2 and 3 jobs. The father's not there. He's in jail or dead, or the parents don't get along, so he had to leave. He ain't got a big brother, big sister to spend time with him. He's out there on his own. Same thing with our girls. They don't have families. Black kids, a lot of them, 75% of our homes are single-parent mothers. And most of those mothers have been cut off of welfare. I just got a notification the other day that in Washington, D.C., so-called nation's capital, they're going to be laying off, I think I saw 25 to 50,000 families from welfare benefits. They're cutting them totally off in the next couple of weeks. They won't have what are those mothers supposed to do? No food stamps, No aid to families with dependent children. So the mothers are going to have to go out there, and you know what's sad? It's going to force a lot of our women to turn to prostitution. Under this Trump administration, we're going to see a lot of black mothers turn to prostitution in order to take care of their families, because the welfare safety net, which was rolled back by George Bush and rolled back further by Barack Obama, is going to be totally repealed under Donald Trump. We're about to go into an economic crisis in black America, a very serious one. And what they want to do is they want to engineer chaos. They want to organize and engineer chaos that has black people so, so panicked that we start killing each other to fight to live over a couple grains of food. So it's going to really get bad if we don't get organized. It's going to really get bad if we don't get organized. They're making it worse on our mothers. So, I mean, you may see, and then they're getting rid of public school. You know, public school about to be over with too. So what are we going to do with all these black kids when the mothers can't feed them, no school to house them? I mean, the black community isn't even paying attention to what's about to go down. The educated blacks don't care because they got a little piece of job, and as far as they're concerned, that's all they need. The middle-class blacks simply want to, and they're so in love with trying to be white people that they're not even paying attention to what's going on to the rest of us. It's going to be really bad for us these next couple of years, and a lot of it is our fault. A lot of it is our fault because we sat by with our hands folded and let Barack Obama ignore black people for 8 years. And a lot of people say, well, you know, all the presidents ignored black people. That's true. You're absolutely right. All the presidents ignored black people. But the difference this time is you allowed it. You allowed it this time. You condoned it. You sanctioned it. And Obama is not harmless. Obama is the only president that forced homosexuality down black people's throats. He's not harmless. He did things to black people that no other president did. He homosexualized our community. He forced homosexuality down black kids' throats. That's not acceptable. On top of that, when Barack Obama was made president of the United States 8 years ago, we were still the priority minority in this country. We were still the priority minority when Obama took office. We are now the minority of the minority. We are at the bottom. Homosexuals are more important than we are. Latinos are more important than we are. White women are more important than we are. Every group is more important than black people because we let the so-called black president ignore you long enough to put you at the bottom of the list. Keep in mind, under every president in this country, we were the priority minority. We didn't get much from it, but you had to deal with us. We were in your face. We were the priority minority. Obama changed that. So he's not harmless. He did a lot of harm to black people. He said, change we can believe in. Well, it's change, but I don't know if you can believe in it.
Yes, pardon the interruption, family. Pardon the interruption. For all the callers, if you have a question or comment, press 1 and put yourself in queue. Yes, sir. Black Power, Black Power. Like to open the line to our national spokesman. Yes, I do. Go. The line is open. Go.
Yes, sir.
The line is open, sir.
Yes, sir. Black Power, we're in the wrong. No, we took a right turn. It's raining and everything, and so we're moving. But one thing that I like to address, and I like to make clear, one of the greatest problems that happened to us was integration. Born in 1950 and understood that black schools were named Harry Tubman. So that means that we had to learn the title of that school. It was Frederick Douglass. If we had to learn the title of that school, it was Nat Turner High. We had to learn that. And now we got the Blue Devils, the Demons, the Vikings, the Cardinals, and everything else. So I'm saying that modern day scholars, we have to understand that we're not getting anything new. When we deal with, when we talk about Tulsa, Oklahoma, there was a black Wall Street that had the philosophy of Marcus Garvey and understood that education means everything. And when we talk about education, I work as a counselor in Audubon. I work as a counselor in independent, so-called black independent schools. I work and on the school board at Louisville, Kentucky, and Cleveland State. But I understand one thing: when we talk about building black institutions, are we talking about going into the grassroots, rolling our sleeves up, and building the institution? When we go into the homes, that's one of the things that I deal with as my job, is going to the home to see the environment the children coming out of. Well, when the environment is seeing the children come out of, the parents needed more teaching than the children did. Let me share something else again, and this is very important. Why home building is so important. Why was there a reason? Now, I listen to many radio programs, and nobody talk about the PTA. We talk about all of the organizations that have been created. The PTA was called Parent Teacher Association, simply the parents and the teacher build association that build community school. So now we become to the point where we come up with the new philosophy. Let's go back and grow the tomato like it's been grown, grow the watermelon like it's been grown, grow the oranges and tangerines and mangoes and grapefruit like it's been grown. But when we come into the European system, how to grow, that's when we lose out everything. So I just want to say this. When we was under segregation was black power. Segregation means we had our own school, black power. Segregation means we had our own hospital, black power. Segregation means we had our own PE, black power. Segregation means we have on a parent teacher association, black power. Segregation means when the community control the school, black power. And what happened, integration came in. I came through an integration system during the 50s. And I understood the deterioration. Under segregation, we had the Booker T. Washington, Tuskegee. We had all the institutions under segregation. If we look at segregation as being bad, no, segregation caused us to do for ourselves. And right now, because we got media, yes. Is it breaking up?
No, you good.
Nah, I can hear you.
Okay, because the integration, we were allowed to ride on the bus. We're allowed to make communication. So now we open with communication. We spitting out everything that we know. We're talking about our science and genius. The scientists and genius we had came out of a segregated situation that forced us to integrate our internal intellectual moving forward. Right now, yes, we've been sold. Yes, we've been bought. Yes, our intelligence being used by them because we are not teaching black nationalism in the proper manner and black Pan-Africanism in the proper manner. So our schools are controlled by them when they write the books. I end this by saying this. I work through the school system. Yeah, the teachers go in teacher lounge and they talk about how ignorant these children is. But they never talked about how ignorant they is when they deal with a whole new different culture, a whole different environment, a whole different survival program. Back then, we dealt with that. You got discipline by the village. It was called a community. And these bourgeoisie Negroes now talk about, take a village to raise a child. You ain't got to tell us that came through that. The elders know that. No, it wasn't a village call. It was a community call. We got to go back to community school. We got to get off the campus where we have been taught and we stole by the slave master like they stole from Egypt and everything else. What they stole, we got to take it back to the community and prepare our children to the war zone. And I end this by saying this. There are 3 zones we live in. And I want everybody to hear it clearly. 3 zones we live in. The one zone is called the zone under enemy control. The second zone is called contestant zone. And the other zone is called liberated zone. Simply meaning this, a zone under enemy control, we will not have this broadcast. We will not allow to be teach our children. It be totally under enemy control. That's what Trump trying to get now. liberated zone. We can have a radio program. We can talk. We can teach. This is a liberated zone. No, excuse me. This is a contestant zone. A liberated zone is where we go back to our own schools, raising our own family, raising our own business, raising our own community security team, where we didn't need no police. We was our own police, and we did this. And it sounds like rhetoric, but it's real. We live in 3 zones. Zone under enemy control, contested zone, a liberated zone. I'm working for a liberated zone. Right now I'm in a contested zone. I can do what I'm doing, but under a zone under enemy control, they'll come get our books. These programs will be shut down, and when it's shut down, do we have a relationship with the masses of people where the majority, where we are able to walk in the street and begin to set up institutions because it's coming, Black Power.
Black Power.
Black Power. Dr. Johnson, are you still on the line?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I know you have to go in a few minutes. So, if you had any lasting words or anything you wanted to touch on before you have to leave?
I would like the Midwest family to know that I will be speaking in Chicago, Illinois, on the last Saturday of Black History Month. That's Saturday, February the 25th. I will be at the new Greater St. John Church, which is in the East Garfield section of Chicago. The address is 3101 West Warren Boulevard, and that's a 4 to 7 program with the doors opening up at 2. I know Chicago is about 3 hours away, so that's why I'm giving that information out. Again, February the 25th in Chicago. I'll be in Brooklyn tomorrow for your listeners in New York City. I'll be in Brooklyn to honor Dr. Khalid Abdul-Muhammad to speak at his annual Earth Day celebration program. That's 415 Atlantic Avenue. I will be at the Cotton Club in Harlem on Saturday to celebrate Miss Leola Maddox's Earth Day. That is the queen to our attorney at war, Alton Maddox. So we'll be celebrating her Earth Day at the Cotton Club, and then I'll be in Atlanta for Dr. King Day at the invitation of Dr. Bernice King, his daughter. She invited me to be a part of the panel discussion on race in America. And then I'll be in Durham, North Carolina on Tuesday the 17th at the Hayti Heritage Center, 804 Old Fayetteville Street on Tuesday, January of the 17th. And then San Diego for the Parent Association Conference, the 27th and 28th, with a lecture in San Diego on the 29th. So again, if anyone needs to reach me, DrUmarJohnson.com, DrUmarJohnson.com. Also by phone, 844-4-Dr. Umar, that's 844-4-DRUMAR. If anyone needs the flyers, text to them. They can text 215-989-9858, 215-989-9858. And also to your parents, don't forget every Tuesday morning, the Black Parent Teleconference, free questions and answers. Any problem you're having with your child, you can call in and get the answer from me every Tuesday, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. And that phone number is 857-232-0158, 857-232-0158. And the access code is 870-864-POUND. I repeat, 870-864-POUND. And I will have the registration information soon for the Dr. Umar Johnson trip to Africa. We take it every year, 4th annual coming up last week of July, 1st week in August. And the 2nd annual Black College and Consciousness Tour out of Atlanta, June 28th to July 12th, 14 days, 14 nights for our 11 to 17-year-old boys and girls. All that information will be coming up during Black History Month. So please stay in touch. Keep the support going. Detroit, I love you. I'll see you next week, the 19th and 20th. I won't be speaking, but I will be visiting the schools there. And we will be building FDMG August 21st, 2018. Here we come.
We need you in the South, too, Dr. Umar Johnson.
Yes, sir. Where you at in the South?
Right now I'm in Arkansas.
Arkansas. I was in Little Rock.
Sir.
A couple months
there every time
ago.
you in Little Rock. We was right there.
Okay. Yeah, I'll be coming back down that way. I'll be in Mobile, Alabama for Black History Month. I'm putting that calendar together now. But yeah, I'll definitely be getting back to Little Rock, if not February soon.
And if you need
Brother
security,
Umar.
we can do your security there too.
Will do. I'll keep you posted on that. Appreciate it.
All right.
Brother Umar, do you have time for one question? We have a call in
Sure.
queue. 404, your line is open.
Thank you. Dr. Umar, how are you?
All is well, sister.
This is Sister Nandi, and I have a question. First, I would like to say I enjoyed the comments, and I took a lot of notes about the work that you're doing. And my question to you was, with you saying about the liberation schools, I listened to a lot of stuff, and I've done a little research myself, and what I want to say is I agree with you about opening schools, but I have an issue, and I want to ask you if there's a reason why we should still continuously deal with governmental systems. Liberation schools, I feel, is a denomination of something that we should be doing amongst our children. Like, I've collected a lot of books, a lot of historical books. And I take time out with teenagers and other individuals, and I teach them, and I find that they're learning at a rapid, rate, more than waiting on certain, donations and things. So my question is, do we wait and take an era of teaching children, because we need a building and things like that, or do we start with the era right now and take all of the material that we have and start to instill in our children what's about to happen and how to educate them from our history? How do we do that?
Okay. First, with regard to government subsidy, I'm not sure what you were referencing, but I don't accept government subsidy. I'm a Garveyite, so we don't take money.
No, not you, sir. Not you, sir. I'm saying like individuals, like certain people who have open liberation schools. Not you. I'm asking you, what do we do to not do that? Right. Yes, sir. Okay.
Well, I think we have to build an independent economic base so we can finance our own educational institutions and systems. I mean, what you're doing, I commend it. There's a lot of brothers and sisters that have those types of programs. Me, myself, I have the College and Consciousness Tour where we do serious education 24 hours a day for 14 days and 14 nights. So we do have that in play. And, of course, I support schools all across the world for that matter. So for me, I'm not just waiting for the school. I'm constantly, every day, doing things to support, educate, and empower. I think everyone else needs to also find out how they can help, such as what you're doing by teaching the children with the books that you have. I commend that. We have home schools. We have other freedom schools out there. We got community learning programs. There's a lot of people doing a lot of good things for our children. But my contribution would be on the institutional level. I'm a nation builder, so for me, the institution is next. We don't need another makeshift program. We need institutions. Programs are good. Institutions are better. When you have a program that is not institutionalized, it dies when you die. And that's one of the problems in the black community. Things don't last more than 1 or 2 generations anymore because they're not institutionalized. It was a program, but it was never put in an institution. Once you have that institution, you can do a much better job of safeguarding that program. Without it, it just dies with the founder. I mean, how many programs we see get created, go a couple years, and then they just die because it was never institutionalized. It was built around a certain personality. But we have to start institutionalize the things that we do. But without question, I support all the programs that are out there. If there's a way I can lend support to what you're doing, I would do that as well. But now, the next step, in my opinion, is for us to build institutions. Our children are entitled to school buildings. They're entitled to school buildings. It doesn't make any sense for us to shortchange them. So my contribution to our children is going to be an institution.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, love.
Well, Dr. Johnson, I just want to say that much gratitude, and I really, really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule. I know you got a lot on your plate right now, and I just want to take the time out to just say thank you, and inshallah, that school will be open August 21st, 2018. I'm rooting for you, brother. And I basically want to say I just appreciate all of the work that you've done.
Appreciate the love and support, everybody. Can't wait to get back to the Midwest.
Black Power, comrade.
Black Power.
Black Power.
Be safe out there. Black Power.
Yes, sir.
All right, now. Peace and love.
That is
But see, what I don't understand, This is what I don't understand, too. This is what I don't understand. True enough, we say parents, you know, parents don't do this and parents don't do that. But we have to understand the community as a whole pays taxes. So even if you don't have kids that we know, like the elder said earlier, we already know it takes a whole village, but the problem is it does not take a whole village of cowards. It's too many chiefs and not enough Indians. So you have us younger generation looking at how mischievous and how deviant the older generation act, and you wonder why Tom over here act like that. Because look at you. If we school board, you know, school board means city council means quorum court means council means, you know, we all got to get involved in everything, regardless if you have a child or not.
Right.
I don't have no kids. So why do I have a foundation of kids? Because I am that child. Just like we say, just like the Queen say, I am Sandra Bland. Okay, but you this child, you this little girl over here too. If we don't get involved before and be proactive, show up even when it's not nothing happening, to let them know, yeah, I'm here. What, you got something to say? I'm here. This child right here is in my foundation. Anytime a child gets in trouble in school, or even when they don't get in trouble, I get a phone call. I have a login password for all the kids in my foundation to check their grades and their conduct. I put my kids in tutoring, even if they need no tutoring. It's mandatory. You make a C on your report card, you coming out of sports. Their parents is on the same thing because I'm their father. If you make a C on your report card, you coming out of sports. If you don't do community service in the summertime, don't even ask to play sports when you go back to school. Because your life is not about you. I'm trying to train you to be the person that you intended to be, because you are from royalty. You are a king. You are a young prince, finna be crowned king soon. You better get it together. I'm doing all these we're doing all this passport paperwork because they don't have nobody showing these parents how to fill out a passport form.
I believe so.
So we all got to get involved.
Yeah,
absolutely.
We have another question from Sister Nundy. I'm opening up a line.
Thank you. I want to make a comment. I agree with the last brother that just spoke, and also Brother Kahar. You know, I didn't want to be so combative, but I have to be real. We don't need any more institutions, you know, and we don't need to wait until 2018. $700,000 and all of this traveling. I can imagine how many books, food programs, and housing or shelters that we can provide for people. And we can teach our people if we were all united together. So, you know, I do have an issue with the intellectual teachings because we're still going to be reformed back to the same literature that the white man is given. You know, Dr. Umar said he's not been governmentally funded, but if you're going to, you know, travel across the globe and rake the city when we could be doing so many other things with the currency that he's asking us to provide for something that we clearly can see during the Trump season is not even going to transpire. We are at war. So anybody who's stabilizing their houses and saving their little dollar bills and they're somewhere building schools in 18, they must be the intellectual niggas that's going to survive revolution. And it's going to be in the wrong way because I just don't see where that's happening. We're at a critical time right now where we need to be moving our people strategically and quietly out of the cities. They need to be in a safe environment. We need to start salvaging all of the books and everything because he's worried about building a school when we got white supremacists that's talking about bombing all of the schools, bombing all of the black hospitals and any type of facilities that's black owned so that they can rejuvenate and start their new world order, even the burning of our books and history so we can never reclaim our land. So while we're going to sit here and focus on building a school in 2018, I think we need to focus now on what Trump is trying to do behind our back before June hits this year and the lights go out and we don't have any more books, we haven't accumulated any shelter or resources to save ourselves because they will begin World War III. Russia and China are affiliated right now. And if we don't do something, Negroes ain't going to do nothing but die in the street. And that's all I wanted to speak on.
We already dying in the street.
You're absolutely right. One more thing
I do think. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Queen.
I apologize, and I wanted to speak to the young brothers.
Yes,
I understand the hostility that you have, but let me tell you something, sweetie. Unless y'all start listening to the elders, I think what the young people have forgotten is the fact that without the history of the elders, whether they were born about 5 minutes ago, we have lived a longer life, and we have strategically figured out a lot of things that transpired and has put you all into modern-day slavery here in 2017. I understand that you all are a little hyper and you all have energy and all of that, but you also got to understand that throughout the time frame, a lot of the elders are being able to still sit here today and speak on the behalf of what we saw because we were a little bit more smart and we had a little bit more better methods on how to strategically tear down this government without losing so many soldiers. I can look back on history and I can kind of count. I know we can't count those that didn't make it as far as they were not being identified, but we can count those that were warriors that made it, and they were somewhere all over the place yelling and screaming about what the elders aren't doing. If you all pay attention to our teachings, if you all pay attention to what we're trying to show you all, because we have survived certain eras of time, then I think you all will be able to strategically start back fighting without prisons being so full and the graveyards being so full. So with that being said, you know, we can't look at it like that. And as far as the mothers, us sisters, we need to stop talking about the mothers. The sisters need to stop that. We got skeletons in our closets as well. We might got some children somewhere, some men too, that we still raising like children. We need to stick together and build a support group and open doors, because we have a lot of young mothers right now that don't know what a PTA meeting is, don't know how to address the teachers, because the systematic error is to destroy our minds. So if you work in the health department or whatever anybody's doing, and you can make a change by psychologically helping these young sisters understand the true technique of removing their children, then we wouldn't have this issue. So we need more strategic methods and less criticism. Power to the people.
Power to the people. Well, I want to say a couple of things. One thing about me, or one thing about others that's willing to produce action, to make change, we're not going to constantly listen to somebody that is not producing action to make change. Meaning, what I mean by that, like we said once before, just because you're older don't make you an elder. Now, our elder is where we, us young generation, go to get wisdom. So therefore, we can maintain or instill knowledge within our intellect. But we can only show that we comprehend what we said we once understood through producing the energy needed for actions, because actions is the only thing that makes comprehension. That's one thing. And another thing is, true enough, no matter where you are, you can always reach somebody that come across your path. You know, I wasn't saying that, I never say that, you know, because some others don't know. And I'm going to be real with you. As me being in the formation, or anything, period, most of the things that we try to solve issues to, we have to solve them ourselves. Why? Because those before us failed us. That's point blank, period. Somebody failed us. Down the line, somebody failed us. And I'm just being honest. And that's how it is. There's no way around it. I mean, true enough, you can do this and you can do that. But if you never back then, if you went together as a collective all across the nation to reach everybody across the globe to produce change or leave back behind in the structure of change, then how are we supposed to know how to change? Don't tell me how to change. Show me how to change. Because
If you don't, if it don't, you can't be hypocritical or contradicting yourself.
But,
Yes, sir. Let's go into a musical break and we'll be back shortly. Black Power family.
Like, bro.